Hey, what is going on everybody, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, as you can tell from the title, today we are talking about HITIF Inc., ticker symbol HITIF. Now, what I wanted to go ahead and do is I wanted to just talk about some of the reasons in which I am not selling my stock, why I am holding it for the long run, and why I have so much faith in this company. Now, as many of you do know, this channel that you are on right now actually was hacked and has been hacked for the last month or so. I finally did get it back, and on my second channel that I started when this one did get hacked, HITIF is a company that I introduced and that I talked about loads. So what I wanted to do is just make sure that all my research is in one place. So what I wanted to do, talk about some catalysts, talk about some news, and talk about some things about this company that I really love, just to show why I like them so much, why I talk about them so much, and then what my plans for the future of them are. Now, if you do like this video, you can definitely let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel. But with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump straight into the video. So as we can see here, all of the information which I'm talking about right now has been and will always be available on my Patreon way early. I mean, we can see all of the things that I'm going to talk about here, and if you do want some notes, here you go. If you do want to give this little screenshot, this is all of the information in which I will talk about today, and I always share it on my Patreon way prior to me actually making these videos. So if you do want access to my research, if you want access to the trades that I make, my trade alerts, if you want access to my trade portfolio, as well as early access to not only the content on this channel, but the videos themselves, definitely go down to the link in the description. It'll bring you over to my Patreon, and I'm 100% transparent with all of that information there. Also, if you are looking to start your own investment journey or expand out into a new brokerage, I 100% recommend using the referral link down below. It'll bring you over to Webull. All you have to do, make an account, deposit $100, and you will get 2 free stocks valued all the way up to $1,850. Who doesn't like some free stocks? Who doesn't like some free money? Because at the end of the day, that is exactly what it is. So let's go ahead, and I just want to talk again about why I like this company so much and why I think that they have so much potential and are super duper undervalued. So the very first one is just simply going to be their motivation, their drive, and their dedication to their business plan. As time has gone on, we have seen from this company things that I have not seen from many companies, especially last year during the pandemic. Now, in 2019, HITIF really started their campaign to start to open a lot of their retail stores, to grow their presence around the world, to grow their presence in Canada, especially within Ontario, to make themselves a known entity there. Their goal was, okay, well, we want to get as many retail stores as we possibly can spread out around Canada, some in the US, and a few internationally, to get our name out there, because not only is that going to increase our revenue, but it will also drive people to our online. It'll drive people to our wholesale. It'll drive people to all of our other assets that will allow us to continue to grow as well. Now, one thing that I've been seeing from HITIF Inc. is the fact that they have not only just done this, but they have done it at exponential rates. And that's what you want to see from a company. Now, the reason that I say that is because sometimes you'll see companies where they'll start to gain a little bit of momentum, and then they get so happy with that momentum that we start to see them get a little bit stagnant. They'll get a little bit linear because they're like, oh, we're doing great. No, HITIF Inc. takes a look at themselves and they say, okay, what can we be doing better? How can we improve ourselves? And what are we going to do going forward to make this an even better company? So with that being said, I think that it's very important to take notice of the drive and the dedication and the motivation within this company to continue to do better things, right? And so I think that's definitely one of the very big reasons as to why I absolutely love this company. They don't settle for average. They don't settle for less, right? And we will go over some of these numbers and we will go over some statistics, but it's simply the fact that they do not settle for not being the best. They don't settle for not being the largest seller. They don't settle for anything less than greatness. And that is a very, very good sign from a company, especially one that has only really been on the mainstream media for a few years now. Now, I do have it pulled up here just to give you guys just a visual of what I mean whenever I say this company does not settle for less. Now, we have to go ahead and we have to take a look at where they were numbers-wise. Now, let's just kind of pretend that this doesn't exist right here. This and this. Let's just pretend it doesn't exist for a second. Whenever HITIF first really got itself going, they were doing fantastic. I mean, they had 37 operating stores, and then they had making about $55 million in annualized revenue. Now, that's great. That's fantastic. But what did HITIF not do? They didn't say, okay, we'll happily be third in Canada. Like we made it to the top 3. We did our thing. We're going to keep growing slowly but surely. And we're going to go ahead and, we're going to figure this thing out. We're going to slowly work our way up. No, they say, you know what we're going to do? We are going to come to an agreement with number 4. And what that's going to do is propel us in the first place. We are going to start to make our way to the top, and we are going to establish ourselves as the best retail company or the largest retail company in Canada. And we are really going to make this thing happen. Now, as we did see here, they did do a combination with Meta Growth, which created a very, very large ecosystem for them of retail stores within Canada, allowing them to become the biggest and largest cannabis retailer in Canada. Not only that, though, it rocketed, it propelled their last quarter annualized revenue way past all of their competitors, all the way up to 148 million in comparison to only 114 million for second place and only 93 million for third place. So that right there just shows me they don't settle for less. They want to be the best, and if it takes going into an acquisition or going into a partnership or doing something like that in order to be that, if they want to be the best, then they are going to do it. And they're going to figure out what it's going to take to do it because they know that their company has the capabilities and, the intelligence and the experience to make it all work. Now, not only does it lie within the fact that they are able to do things, like come to a partnership in order to grow their company, but they're also very realistic, right? And that's one thing I like, because one thing you see from a company is maybe they'll start to get their online presence good and they're like, oh, well, we want to get our online presence. We got our online presence good, but now I want our in-person presence to be even better. So we're going to go door to door. We're going to do that. No, right? That's good later down the line, in my opinion. I would say in a situation and, in the predicament in which they are in, I would say if you are growing your retail stores, this is specific for High Tide. If your High Tide, Canna Cabana stores or any of the other stores like that are bringing in loads and loads and loads of revenue, a vast majority of your revenue, continue to grow those out until you can get to the point that you can continue to grow them out at the same rate that you have been while also growing the other facets of your business. And that is exactly what they are doing. It's beautiful. Because let's go ahead and let's take a look at just some of these numbers just to get an idea of where their numbers have been and why it plays such a big role. Now, it says here that segment-wise in the fourth quarter of 2020, $22.6 million of revenue was generated by retail, $2.2 million by wholesale, and an immaterial amount by corporate. For the year ended October 31st, 2020, $75 million was generated by retail, only $7 million generated by wholesale, and $0.4 million by corporate. So that puts it right somewhere around 90% of their overall revenue coming from retail stores. Now, what they could say is, we want to grow our wholesale and we want to grow some of our other, facets, with our corporate sales or whatever. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take a break from retail so we can grow out our wholesale presence. And then that is going to, diversify us up. No, I personally do not like that. I think later, when you're like a midterm company, when you're a company who's been really established for quite some time, making big profits, yes. But when you're High Tide, who just caught momentum, what they're doing right now with the amount of stores in which they're opening is absolutely beautiful, in my opinion, because as we can see, that is where their revenue is. That's where the big money is. And as this cannabis market does, continue to grow, as we're starting to see a lot more legalization happen in the United States, which we will go over in a second, as we start to see, Canada start to lift some of its restrictions, they are going to be able to grow even further, and they are aware of that. They're intelligent, they're realistic, and they pay attention to the fact that that is their big opportunity to establish themselves as a major player, and I absolutely love it. So what I did is I went ahead and I make a chart of all of their stores and the dates in which, the news came out about their stores. Now, as we can see here, they have been absolutely killing the game with the number of stores they're opening. So as we can see, in August of 2019, they were only sitting at about 15 stores. Now let's consider that. 1 year and 6 months ago, they were at 15 stores only. Now, from that point forward, they climbed and climbed and climbed. By June of 2020, they were at about 36 stores. So they doubled their store size in the course of nearly a year. Definitely good. Now we have to also consider this is when the pandemic started. Many things started closing down, including cannabis stores, retail locations, mostly things like that were closed. But they were still, very passionate. They were dedicated and they were sticking to their business game plan. And as we can see here, they were continuing to grow. But this is where we have really seen them start to shine. Now, as we did see, they did have that Meta Growth acquisition, which allowed them to be the largest retailer in Canada. And that put them at about 65 stores in November of 2020. And since then, they have now opened 11 more stores, with 10 of those coming this year alone. So we can tell that they are focused on growing out their business and expanding that footprint. And I absolutely love this company for that. So that all has been about the first big reason as to why I'm so excited about this company. The second one is going to be their potential. So many of you will say something along the lines of, well, Tyler, they've already opened up 76 stores, man. Like, realistically, how much more can they grow, considering the fact that they're already growing so fast? And the crazy part is, this is just the beginning. We have to consider so many aspects of their business to consider what their true potential is. We have to consider the fact that they're within a market and an industry that's really just starting. Realistically, it's just starting. Maybe the last couple of years we've had certain companies doing well, and cannabis is doing well, and North America has been performing decently. But realistically, it's just getting started. I think realistically, we will see legalization of cannabis within the United States within the next 5 years. And I think that as that does happen, that is going to, one, be the biggest opportunity opening up for this company so far. Now, one thing that I do want to take notice of is the fact that also, even locally, they have still so much potential. We have to consider the fact that they have about 26 stores in Ontario at the moment, and the cap in Ontario for the amount of cannabis retail stores in which you can own is 30. Now, the thing about that is they are expecting that Ontario is going to be lifting these regulations and bringing that number all the way up to 70 by September 30th. Now, the reason that's important is because that is already their center. That's already their hub. That is already where the majority of their stores are. Now we have to consider if they can double their presence in that area with the uplifting of some of the, these restrictions, that is only going to allow them to further basically monopolize that area because they have major control of the industry in Ontario. So we have to consider locally, there's still so much potential. Now let's consider regionally, right? We have to consider the fact that once they are done targeting Ontario, they have created such a strong presence there that expanding out into other areas of Canada will be much easier. And honestly, they already have started to do so. They've already started to work on getting their products out into some of these other provinces. And so as they do continue to expand out, they will be able to use all of the revenue being generated by many of these different aspects of their business to grow out exponentially, and that will allow them to reach many other places in Canada. Okay, so we thought locally, we thought regionally. Now let's think internationally, because this is where it really gets big. And we're just talking about retail stores realistically. What I did is I went ahead and I pulled up a map here, and this is going to be the forecasted global legal cannabis market in 2024. Now, as we can see here, North America and Canada alone are going to be expected to generate about a third of the total market size at about $38 billion. Now, we have to consider something. That is only one area. That's only one aspect. That's only one piece of the world in which they're targeting. Their international sales may not be the majority of their money right now, but they have started to expand out. So they do have a lot of the licenses. They do have a lot of the different things that they're going to need to expand out internationally. So as we can see here, the Latin America and the Caribbean, 9.1 billion expectancy. Europe, which is going to be, I think, the next international market they target after they do finish expanding out into the US and Canada, sitting at 39.1 billion, 12.5 billion for Asia, 2.7 billion for Oceania, and 2.6 billion for Africa. So what that means to me is I think that there is still so much potential for this company that the valuation that it is at now is an absolute steal. So what I think for this company is that I think realistically establishing a strong presence like they have here or in Canada will be much harder to do in a place like Asia or in a place like Europe because they're not that hometown name as they are in Canada. But what I think will be a factor that will help expedite that process and help them expand will be their existence in Canada. I think it will be their experience. I think it will be all of the intelligence and the understanding of markets that they will learn as they do continue to open over 76 stores in the span of only a few years. So all of that information combined, and where I see this company going in the future, I believe that this is an absolutely phenomenal company. Now, what I want to go ahead and do is now that we've talked about, the company, what they have going on now, and then we talked about the future, let's talk about expectations. Let's talk about what I think this company is doing and why I'm so excited. Now, this is going to be a diagram of basically what exactly they're expecting to do over the next few months. Their goal for the end of 2021 is to have opened over 120 stores worldwide. Now, if we do take a look at this chart, we can see that this thing is starting to grow exponentially. Now, of course, they did have the moment where they had meta growth, so it kind of makes my curve not look so good, but it is what it is. But as we can see here, if they are able to reach that point, that means that they are going to have gone from 15 stores in 2019 to only 2 years later, 120 stores. Now, whenever we consider all of this information, we consider their potential, and we consider how strongly their fundamentals are, this is an absolutely amazing company. I think that with all of that information, considering the fact that they are only at 62 cents, they are trading at only about 1.5x of expected revenue. This is definitely, in my personal opinion, for a long-term investment, one of the best cannabis long-term investments that are out there. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm simply just a guy on YouTube giving my opinion. But I truly do believe that this is a fantastic company, and that is why I am not at all selling any of my shares of High Tide Inc. With that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, you can let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel. With that being said, I do post on this channel 2 to 3 times every single day, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Peace.